Hey, welcome to another episode of the My Identity Podcast. I hope you've been enjoying Season 5 as much as we have enjoyed bringing these episodes to you week after week. Today is a special one, and I know I say that before and after every episode, but I'm serious about this one. I'm really serious about this one. I'm excited to introduce to you two of my good friends that I've known for, I figured it up today, 21 years.
Wow.
21 years I have known Steve and Terri Huffman. They have an unbelievable story, from their love story, from the first meeting to just all points in between. There's rarely been a lull or a dull moment in your lives together, right?
No.
So grab a beverage, put your favorite socks on, your favorite person, snuggle up with them, because we're good and in the fall right now. We're fixing to ride again on the My Identity Express.
Welcome to the My Identity Podcast, where we like to say my DNA is different. Hear the conversations and stories from people learning how to engage life from an all things new reality. That your purpose and that your identity isn't determined by what you do. This is the My Identity Podcast with Duran Mahan.
Steve and Terri, welcome.
Hey,
I guess y'all should be telling me welcome, because I'm in your house now.
Welcome to our home.
Man, we have, this season, we're going remote now. We've gotten high tech. And
Great.
Excuse me, let me rephrase that. Brandon's always been high tech. I'm just tech. I'm just basic tech.
Basic tech.
I'm so glad to be here with y'all. I've spent a good bit of time with you. And we figured out today, I figured out 21 years.
21.
21. That's a long
I
time.
met y'all when you were dating still.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, y'all had not yet married.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I remember we were on stage and you didn't volunteer, you got designated to babysit our son Ryan.
That's typically how it works.
That's usually the way it goes.
That's
But we were singing with your wife and
Okay.
her sister it was TBN Studios.
Okay.
All right.
We were singing with some people, and
Wow.
Ryan never liked to be out of eye shot of us.
Yeah.
And so we said, hey, Steve would love to be back there. It was Steve, and then it was
Probably Troy.
yes,
Yeah.
it was Vicky's husband, Troy.
Yeah.
So you
Wow.
guys, I appreciate that. I don't know if we ever paid you a sitting fee for that time, but
No,
thank you.
No, I keep receipts.
It meant a lot for us. It
Yeah.
really did. But
Yeah.
So you guys have been married. Y'all married in, was it 01 or when did you guys marry?
02.
02.
February. We married on Valentine's Day.
So y'all
Of
just crossed
02.
the 21. Was it
Yep.
21
Yes.
year threshold?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So this is a love story that I've been privileged to hear. It's been an adventure, and I've always said that you guys needed your own reality TV show, and so this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
At some point,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we at My Identity Podcast like to give people a start. So maybe the next thing will be a reality TV show.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. But I want to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Okay.
And I requested specifically this story because it makes me laugh, and I know that our listeners and our viewers will laugh at this, because if you know Terri and if you know Steve, and a lot of you don't, but you're going to want to know them after you hear this story.
So this is about identity. So this
Yes,
is not
is
good.
about
This is
identity.
not good.
This is where y'all's marital identity got started.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
they're in love.
After
But
this-
let's go back to the very first time
Well,
that
after
you guys
that,
met.
after that started, the 21 years that we just talked about is amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is a miracle. Of miracles.
Started off rocky.
It did.
Yeah.
So you're in
Not
Chicago
really.
at the time, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I'm gonna do to set it up. You guys go.
You want to talk about it? Or you want
Yeah,
me to?
you tell it. You tell it.
We lived in Chicago. I lived in Chicago at that time. Obviously, I had never met her, and we were. My pastor at the time, Steve Muncie, was preaching at another church, and he was doing an illustrated sermon. And the illustrated sermon was called "The Storm." And during this message, he, if you know Steve Muncie, he's very theatrical.
Yes.
So we brought
Lots of drama.
So we brought in a boat.
Yeah.
And
As you do.
hey, right, yeah, just a normal boat like most churches have.
Yeah.
So fast forward, we're at the end of the service, and
So my sister Vicky was singing there as well.
Okay.
yeah, Terri and Vicky were
Were
guest
you in the
singers.
boat? Did you sing?
No,
from
we
the
didn't
boat?
get in the
Okay.
boat.
They didn't get in the boat. But obviously Steve was preaching, Pastor Steve was preaching, and Terri and Vicky were guest singers that evening. And service is over, everything's getting wrapped up, and I was on staff at that church at the time. So it was my job to tear down the set and carry the boat out. So myself and two individuals that worked with me were carrying the boat. They were on one end and I was on the other end, and we're carrying the boat out. And On our way out the door, Terri and Vicky notices a gentleman by the name of Angel, one of the guys that works with me.
Well, remember they're selling something in the back that we were
Oh, you
excited
got your
about.
merch table all set up?
They got their
Well,
merch table set up, but
The
they
church was selling something.
they made an announcement. They said, for those of you that are hungry, in the back we have pre-made dinners, fried chicken dinners.
Yeah.
And so we're carrying the boat out, and Terri says to Angel, who she had met already. Again, listen, before they sang that night, I had no idea who either one of them were. Like, never heard of Yoey, meant nothing to me at the time. And so we're carrying the boat out, and Terri says to Angel, Angel, we got to be at this product table. Would you mind running to the back and getting us a couple of boxes of chicken?
Louisiana girls got to eat, man.
Right.
Absolutely.
And Angel goes to set the boat down. Now, everybody's exiting the church. It's a fairly large church, and he's setting in the foyer in front of the exit doors. He's going to set the boat down. And
I'm leaving you for a pretty blonde, man.
Right.
He likes
Bishop
her
Hinton,
better.
was it Hinton's church?
R.D. Hinton.
R.D. Hinton.
And so
on the radio.
So I said to Angel, whoa, no. I said, you need to pick up that boat and let's take it on out of the church. If they want chicken, they can go get chicken themselves. And here's where I meet my wife. She looks at me.
Keep your hands down.
Oh, no, we want to see.
She looks at me when I told Angel to pick up the boat.
Yeah.
And she says in sign language,
yes.
Stop.
Absolutely.
That's how we met.
That was your
Go
first
get
meeting.
Yeah.
That was our first meeting.
That was him letting you know
I
that
flipped him off
I believe
first
in
time I
one.
saw him.
She said, "I believe in one God."
And I said, woo, I love her.
At that moment, you realized that any relationship with her was going to be straightforward. You were never going to guess where she
That's
was.
Listen, at that moment, I figured I'm going to just go ahead and carry this boat on out of here.
And with that, Steve hoisted the boat completely on his own shoulders.
Yeah.
And Angel went and got chicken.
Correct. And
That's what I was going to ask. Did he go get the chicken, or did
No,
you finish moving the
no.
boat?
He listened, and
No,
we
he
carried the
did.
boat out, and I don't know if they ever got chicken that night.
We did later.
He did later. They saved you
Yeah.
some. So from that point, I mean, that's like a great introduction.
That was the introduction.
Yeah,
That was the
I think
intro.
that's nothing will set a relationship off like that. So where was the next time that
She
you
was telling me
re-engaged?
that
Well-
you are number one.
You are number one.
You are number
I believe
one.
that about you. You
Yeah.
are the one.
The one, right.
Well,
and I agreed.
I had went through a divorce,
Okay.
and Steve Muncie was raised. I was raised very close to the Muncies, and he knew I was going through a hard time. We talked on the phone, and he encouraged me to come up there and go on staff with them.
Okay.
And I
Now,
would.
this was after our initial meeting.
Yeah,
this was months
after.
later.
This is
Okay.
kind of how it all kind of happened. So I went up there, took my kids up there, and became on staff there. Steve was in the television department.
When she came on staff, I said, that's the bird woman.
The bird lady.
I'm teasing. I did not say that.
Stop.
But I did not say that, but go ahead.
But anyway, so I'm on staff, and my kids just really fell in love with Steve because Steve Muncie told the church, the staff, said there's a friend of mine coming, just went through a crazy divorce, got 4 kids, and I want you to reach out to these kids. I had a 14-year-old and I had a 16-year-old. And my Steve did it. I mean, he reached out to my kids. He became really good friends with my kids and did a lot of stuff. Well, when I brought him home, I'd go get him from school, bring him up to the church because my work day wasn't over yet. They would want to go to Steve's office and hang out with Steve.
The two younger
The
ones.
2 younger ones. So Courtney would go in Steve's office and say, hey, my mom wants to know if you want to come over spaghetti tonight, and come to my office and say, Steve wants to come over spaghetti. So this little girl was putting this
She
thing
was
together.
conniving.
Yeah, this 9-year-old. 9?
Yeah, she was 9.
So
9-year-old.
neither of you knew about
So we didn't know
No
about
idea.
the others.
She
And
would
then he
just come
comes
back.
over
She
to
would just
eat.
come back to me and say, "My mom wants to know if you want to come and have spaghetti tonight." And I was thinking, well, it's
Okay.
free. It's free spaghetti. Let's go.
So he came over, and then he just kind of made a habit of coming and hang out with the kids. And then he and Steve Muncie went to Vegas for it was like a big trade show for television and stuff. And he said he was going to be gone for so many days. Well, they added on the trip. And I talked to him on the phone. I thought, when are you coming home? It was like he needs to get here, And that's when I started feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm falling for somebody,
Yeah.
And
Were you falling simultaneously, or did you fall at the bird?
So listen, it was all part of the plan. You get in good with the kids.
There you go, man.
You get free
Master
food.
strategy.
You get in good with the kids. That leads to free food. Free food leads to marriage.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
You follow the formula.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I got a program that's getting ready to come out. $149 a month. You too can enjoy this program.
We forgot to mention there was an infomercial element to this
Correct.
season of My Identity. So that's
So I did fall in love with the kids, and they
Yeah.
would literally show up in my office every single day about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I let them run around the church playing with walkie-talkies and video equipment, and one day, so inside the church, they had like a coffee shop that sold coffee, juices, food,
Sandwiches,
whatever.
okay.
Yeah.
And the lady that runs the coffee shop shows up into my office one day, and she puts a bill on my desk. It was like $100 and some odd,
Yeah.
$130. And I
Come
said,
to find out.
well, I don't even drink coffee.
Right.
So I look
Yeah.
down and I go, what's this for? She goes, that's your tab. I said, my tab? She said, yeah, your tab. And I said, every time I go and get anything out of there, I just pay for it at that time. She says, yeah, but the two little blondes, they don't. They just say,
wow.
put it on Steve's tab.
Man, they were shrewd businessmen.
Yeah.
Even at that age.
Yeah. So between getting flipped off and then a tab, what's left but marriage?
The most inexpensive thing to do for you would be to go ahead and marry, right?
It would have been cheaper.
I want to tell you something a little bit more serious about that note. When we were in Indiana, my first husband, a lot of issues that the kids were aware of that happened in the marriage. And we went to Steve Muncie's church. And my son, at the time, he was 14. And he said, Mom, I really want to talk to Steve Muncie. And I said, okay. I would get teary-eyed talking about it. But he said, I want to talk to him. And so I said, okay, what do you want to talk about? Because they haven't really met him yet.
Yeah.
He says, well, you'll see when I get there. So we go, and we go into his office, and his wife is there with him. It was me and Ryan. And he looks right at him, and he says, do you drink?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my God. I wasn't expecting him to just come out and ask him.
Yeah.
Because he knew his dad did.
Right.
And how, he was a pastor of a church, and how just things went south.
Yeah.
And then he asked, he looked over at Melody, he said, has he ever hit you? And this 14-year-old was so bold.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what is he doing? I know what he's doing, but I'm like, wow, you're just meeting these people. And they talked, and he said, okay, because Melody said, of course not. And Steve said, well, I think you should hit me back, or just try to make light of it.
Absolutely.
But he had to make sure that we weren't going to something that it was going to turn out south. A repeat of our lives. He wanted to make sure that. Yeah, it was pretty part of the story of being up there. And then when Steve and I got married, Steve said something so sweet in our ceremony, because we had all of our 4 kids there. And he said, most men today marry 1. He said, but I married 5.
Wow. Yeah.
And each concern that those kids had, one of them had a concern about drinking because of their dad. Another one was about abuse.
Yeah.
Another one was about having an affair,
Yeah.
different things. So each kid, he would look at them and call them by name and say, Courtney, I promise you, alcohol will never touch these lips. And then he went, that was all, that wasn't planned. It was something that, and those vows that was made that day, I mean, Steve still keeps them, all those things. And that really was a lot to the kids, because the kids never have ever said, my stepdad, or called him, Steve never tried to be the dad.
Yeah.
Steve wanted to be the best friend.
Yeah, right.
He'd say, you already have a dad, but I'm going to be your best friend.
Yeah.
And I think that is a thing with a lot of people in marriages. You've got a dad.
Yeah.
You don't need another dad. Just be their best friend. And I think that's what he's done. And it's really been great.
Well, you guys' story has inspired through the years watching and knowing y'all and knowing some of the details and knowing that Steve had never been married, never had kids of his own. And there's an age difference. And I like to say that because my
Yeah, I'm
wife is a
older.
little older than me. Well, but Terri doesn't look much older than you. That's the thing.
Right.
Terri's maintained that youthful vibrancy and glow. But
She married young.
that's it. Exactly. She knew.
That's what happened. She did.
That scripture, train up a child, can also be overlaid with train up a husband in the way they should go.
Yeah, right.
When they're old, they won't depart.
Childish husband.
That's right. It's kind of interchangeable. But to see his willingness to love you, to take on your children, he walks into this thing, he's got a ready-made family. And so knowing that and then watching him interact and knowing what you guys have been through is an incredible inspiration. And I've seen some of Steve's pictures before he met you. I've got one on my computer of Steve's senior picture from high school that occasionally, if the mood hits just right, I'll send it out.
I've asked you to remove that from your screensaver.
My screensaver. Yeah, man, it's getting kind of pixelated because I've used it. But and you talked about Ryan and what your kids had associated with. This is what. Okay, you're a preacher too. Well, so is my dad. Well, I've got to. This doesn't make sense. I've got to ask questions. But he was so protective of you. What, you were married. You were a pastor of a church in Houston, and how would you say your identity? What direction did it go? So when you're a pastor's wife of a big church, you realize certain things are expected of me. I've got to be looked at as a certain type of person. I've got to. How did you maintain even your sanity through knowing what you were living through, knowing what you were a part of, but knowing too, I've got 4.
Well, when it all came crumbling down, I really, for years, I stayed in it because of the people. I won the sound man to the Lord. I won the lady that handled all the children's ministry. I won her to the Lord off of the McDonald's playground. Everyone in position, I won to the Lord. And I felt like I had to stay there. Yeah. I thought, if I leave and I expose this, then what's going to happen to these people? But one day, I'll never forget the day it happened to me. It was like the Lord spoke to me. And things were going really bad in my marriage. And he said, do you really think that they're here because of you? So it took the pressure off. Yeah. Because you gotta work out your salvation with the Lord. You can't be here because of me. Right. But I was thinking, I can't let these people down. Yeah, yeah. That would be so terrible because I was there for them. I'm gonna blow it. Yeah. So I stayed another year, and covering. But when I really got to the grips of things in my marriage, the church was in its peak. Yeah. I mean, he was doing all his craziness, and still people were getting saved. Wow. People were getting healed at the altar calls, and my kids were in the back row. Like, how is this measuring up? Yeah. How does this work? And then I remember conversation. He said, what I am there at church, that's my employment. That's what I do for a living. And what I am at home is who I really am. So it made my kids very, very confused. You know, I think it was just the beginning of a lot of negative things. Yeah. My son at 12 years old, he lost his eye. He had a stroke and lost his right eye. And I remember when I knew things were going bad, this was one of my very first signs that it was really going to be over. He was in the hospital, children's hospital, and I asked the doctor, because, he's black. It was black. It's not like it was detached retina. Yeah. And I asked the doctor, so what are my chances that he's going to see again? And he said, about 10%. And I said, to my husband, I said, 10%. The Bible says that when you give 10%, it's like you've given it all. So I'm going to take that as He's getting it back.
Get it back. Yeah.
Then I said, what about the blood? Does he have any blood going to his eye? And he said, a few drops. There's a few drops of blood that, is going there. Me, I'm like, wow, drops of blood save the sins of this world. I'll go for that. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at him and saying, wow. And his response was, whatever. You can believe that all you want.
Yeah.
I thought, you're the preacher, and you're not believing with me on this thing?
The very things that you're proclaiming week
Yes.
after week. Yeah.
And so it was just the beginning of showing that we're not
Yeah.
on the same page,
Yeah. Well, the fact that you came through that and the kids associated even the identity of what it means to be a Christ follower, and they see that. I can't imagine how many times that you must have questioned, even coming through that. How many times when you were by yourself questioning, is this real? I know you have a heritage of being brought up to love and know
Jerron,
God.
but I've never questioned it
Yeah.
like that.
Wow.
I have just feel like, I don't know, what's down in your well,
Yeah.
it's gonna come up. I've had a lot of years, a lot of word.
Yeah.
My heritage, legacy plays in part. I see my parents been a good example, excuse me, of when things are bad, we just hang on.
Yeah.
We trust the Lord. We literally trust Him. I really believe you do or you don't.
Yeah.
And if you're on the fence, the enemy owns the fence.
Knows how to take
You have to
off.
declare yourself who you are.
Yeah.
And
See, you saw that. You saw the consistency of what it meant to have a minister father and
Yes.
mother, that what they spoke,
yes,
they lived. That's the benefit I have. And I think that's why I hear some of these horror stories of contemporaries of mine that were raised in ministry that took a different turn. But it's because the lives that my dad and my mom lived before me,
yes.
I didn't see an inconsistency with what I heard them say and what I saw them do. It was
Right.
the same thing.
The same thing.
And I think that's the legacy that you guys will pass on
Yep.
to your kids, to your grandkids. I was sitting here as you were these stories and thinking of Steve simultaneously while you were going through what you were going through. And here sits a young guy up in the Chicagoland area, getting into whatever, making really good senior photos and all of this kind of stuff. And he had no idea. And then he meets you as on one end of a canoe coming out of a church.
It was a boat.
It was a boat. It was like a land yacht.
Yeah.
And just to see the orchestrations of how God can put things together. And even since you guys have been married, I mean, we don't have enough time today to be able to go through even the stories and the accounts that I know of, and I know the ones that even I don't know. But what has...
That's why I'm glad that this is a Hulu series.
Yes, it's a mini-series. Yeah, it is. Yellowstone was yesterday.
Correct.
The Huffman world is
Yeah,
today.
and next time I'll
the now.
have my cowboy hat on.
Yeah, there you
So
go. Because you guys were...
We'll be good.
So what has kept you guys through each? Because I know all four of your kids, and I know the challenges that they've walked through, and the lives that they've had, and the things that they've battled. But what would you say is the one thing you guys together? What's kept you solidified and kept you guys above water after walking through all of this stuff?
Well, Terry just mentioned it a second ago. What's down in the well is coming up in the bucket.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't raised in church. I didn't get saved until I was 19 years old. But there's only one answer to Christ.
Yeah.
Christ.
Absolutely.
There is no other answer for that. I personally,
Catchphrase to you. That's reality.
that's reality,
Yeah.
because I honestly do not know, understand, can't comprehend how anybody can go through this life. Everybody's got a story,
Right.
Right, and we can hide behind and pretend we don't, but we all have a story.
No doubt.
And I don't understand how anybody can navigate through this life without Christ.
Yeah.
That's hope. That, and if you don't have that, man, I can't imagine. I wouldn't have wanted to try to navigate those waters.
It's an impossibility.
Right, because, it's in those quiet times when you're laying in the bed that the enemy attacks. Throughout the day when you're busy, you're running a career, you're going to school functions, you're doing whatever it takes to, take the kids wherever they need to go or deal with whatever problems they're dealing with. And, but in the quiet hours of the night, when you're laying in the bed and everything's quiet, lights are out, that's when the enemy attacks.
Yes, indeed.
And that's when you got to grab on, and you got to say, Lord, I'm trusting in you on this one.
Yeah.
And that's my answer. That's we couldn't have done it without the Lord. I'm not talking about I'm talking about the financial struggles we've went through. Terri will tell you that, there's been times in our life that if you were to lay it out all on paper, individuals would look at that and say, not possible. There's no way that and that
equals that.
Right. 2 and 2 always equals 4, but somehow in our life 2 and 2 equaled 10.
Yeah.
The Lord multiplied all the time. And so in grace, in health, in hope, finances, in every single aspect of our life, we've had to depend on the Lord.
And I know my family and I have been the beneficiaries of just your lives and your testimonies in that area. Just two of the most unselfish people, two of the most non-me-centric people that Tina and I have ever been around. And to watch you guys maintain, you can be going through literal hell, but yet when we get around you guys, it's we're gonna laugh, we're gonna feel loved, we're gonna feel encouraged, and that speaks to the character of you guys and what you've put into the world. I think you're going to see fruit and benefits from that for generations and generations to come. Now, Terri, you walked through a health scare a few years ago.
Yes, in 2012, I had breast cancer, and October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. But at the same time, I was going through breast cancer. I had 2 children in heroin addiction. My son was dealing with alcohol. And then my other daughter was smoking weed. So we had all 5 of us were jacked up with some issue.
Wow.
And Steve...
We had 3 foster girls at the time.
3 foster girls. Remember them?
That's
So we had 3 foster girls. So with all this addiction and cancer, got 3 foster kids living with us. Steve held it together.
Yeah.
He really did. He held everybody, giving everybody hope. We'll get through this. We're going to get through this. I'll take this one. We were doing so much, just so much at that time. We were getting together with you and Tina and several of our friends. Just people don't realize that when you get with a small group, you don't know everybody's story, but it's important to be there.
Yes, it is.
Because you draw strength from one another. But when I went through my first situation with my first husband, I remember the Lord spoke to me. He said, do you want to expose him? Or do you want me to take care of it? And he spoke to me and said, I'll bless you. And let me tell you, I did say a word. I said, I'm going to walk away. I walked away. And God blessed me with Steve, who, didn't have any baggage, you could call it. No kids.
Just a mullet.
No, just a mullet. No kids, no ex-wife. Who loves my children.
Fresh start.
Loves our grandkids, And it was like God blessing me and rewarding me with Steve. And, I can count on one hand how many arguments we've had in 21 years. We flow well together.
Yeah.
And
I think the thing that inspires me so much about Steve, he is a prime example of someone who, though he's never had biological children himself, he is the epitome of what it means to be a father.
yes.
He has a fathering anointing on his life, and grandfather is time 10. And Steve and our interactions, we'll laugh hysterically together and cut up and just talk about everything under the sun and just be going this way in the conversation, take a dog leg and go this way and laugh about it and have a blast. But watching him from afar and just there's a depth to his life. I guess I could talk to you since you're sitting right there. I'm talking to your wife about you.
You didn't even notice I left for a few minutes.
You left for a minute. He's really
Back
quick.
now.
But there's such a depth to your life and an inspiration that I think he is as much or more of a father of any guy that I've seen to do what he's been blessed to be able to do, and to see what he's seen, and to make the deposits into the lives of his kids and grandkids. That's special, and I think I think Steve's a hero on multiple levels. But as a father, that's a legitimate thing, and it's in him, and we see the fruits of it, and of course those grandbabies I know have just absolutely, you know, he's wrapped. He'll never be his own man again. I mean, he's done, and it's fine. I look forward to that.
I appreciate the kind words, but in all honesty, to me, it's just normal.
Yeah,
it's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
it's nothing, special. I've told people in the past, there's never been one time that I did anything for these kids because their dad didn't.
Right.
My job wasn't to do what he didn't do.
It wasn't a reaction.
No. It wasn't, he didn't, so I will.
Yeah.
Right? It was just, that's what you do as a father.
Yeah.
You take care of them. Mm-hmm. It's you don't think about it. You don't go, well, they don't have this because he didn't, so I'll handle that side. Right? With reluctance or whatever the case may be. You do it just because you love your kids.
Yeah.
It's normal. It's not a hero. It's normal.
No, I guess using the term hero in the sense that we, from my perspective, and yes, I'm a little bit older than Steve, I know. I mean, but from my perspective, we give such credence in this culture to athletes, to actors, to singers, to entertainers. But watching what you do, to me, that, I say that about teachers as well. My wife's a teacher, and
teachers are heroes.
Teachers are, yes, man. They I mean, it's amazing. And she and who my wife works with, students with learning challenges.
Sure.
And I often tell her, I'm like, well, baby, you really don't know it, but you've had practice because you've raised a husband with learning challenges, and it equipped you and got you ready to be able to handle that. But to see that, I think the legacy that you have the opportunity to create with every man that you, I mean, my own son looks up to you incredibly, and Ryan's gone through some stuff, but he's always had a place in his heart. He loves Steve. Steve was the first one actually that brought him out of his shell and helped him discover that he could sing. When he was
in front of a fireplace.
In front of a fireplace, Feliz Navidad. Right. And now hear him. He's as country as cornbread. Yeah. You would never think he would sing a Spanish
Christmas song
of a song.
Yeah.
But just to see you do that, but you're right. It's a natural outpouring of who you are as a man, and that is inspiring. And I think, speak a little bit to the importance of fathering, in just the value of fathering, of how it impacts the identity of our kids in this generation and moving forward.
Man, it's extremely important. And I wasn't, my parents divorced when I was 9. My dad died when I was 14. He was not a good person at all. And I can go on for stories. I won't, but he wasn't a good person. And, I think in life, everybody decides that you're either going to be, I remember at a time, and I told my mom, looking at that situation, and I said, I will not be that.
Yeah.
That I will not be. However, in society, most of the time, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Right? Mm-hmm. I was listening to a Kelly Clarkson song the other day, and one of the lyrics says, "This apple fell far from the tree." And I thought it was great, right? Because it spoke to me.
That's an anthem for you, man.
Yeah, it spoke to me. But most of the time, let's face it, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
So it's so important to be a good example to your children, to your neighbors, to the people that are around you. My pastor, Kent Christmas, is an incredible example of that.
Yeah.
He is as solid gets in every aspect of life. And we've been there now 10, 11 years, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And, he has, just instilled, just watching his life for the last 10 years and who he is, you see how it's just so incredibly important to be, a leader, to be somebody that, people, that kids can. We live in a fatherless nation right now.
That's exactly right, man.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at most of what's going on in our country, you can trace that back somewhere.
Yeah.
That there was not a role model.
Right.
Whether it be a biological father, a stepfather,
Yeah.
a pastor of a church, whomever that might be. And listen, we're never too old to not look at somebody as a father, spiritual father, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah,
because we don't know everything, right? There's still future for all of us, and having somebody to look at for the future that we have to navigate is important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's so important. And I've been fortunate enough to be, around Kent Christmas and to see how he lives his life. And in that aspect, he's fathered me to know that, okay, what do I have to do the next 10 years of my life?
Right.
And then I can pass that down to somebody that's younger than me.
Yeah.
But our country right now, man, is we got a problem, and it's because men got to step up.
Yeah.
We got to step up.
That's a prophetic thing in Scripture that talks about that he will turn the hearts of the sons to the fathers and the hearts of the fathers to the sons.
Correct.
And I think that's what we're seeing. I know even in our community where we're a part of, that is such an emphasis on fathering. And I think that men like you and the stories that you and Terri have written and are continuing to write, I think they're going to be the cornerstones on the future of what we're going to see in the kingdom of God, in the churches, but also in culture. That's why I'm not as negative about the outlook of where we're heading, because I'm excited. I wouldn't want to trade places with anybody else. Then I wouldn't mind going back in the 50s where just the cool, they said that was the greatest generation. But being
because
where
you would
we
wanted
are
to
now,
have that pack of cigarettes.
yeah, I want to have the camels
Rolled
rolled
up.
up and drive the muscle cars and
Yeah,
all that kind of
yeah.
stuff. That'd be unique and fun.
Right.
But to be where I am right now, and I think the opportunity that's before us is absolutely mind-blowing. And I think you guys are what that looks like in being a father and seeing a devotion and love of what a healthy marriage looks like. Knowing what you guys have come through and knowing where you are. And Terri and I, we had about 3 years ago, able to sing a little bit.
Yeah, we
and
did.
do some Christmas parties, and there's a blast, have a lot of fun. And I think our friend Wayne's probably wanting to do a reunion tour at some point.
Good.
So we got this house, got Lisa's house, got 2 or 3 places we can do the mini tour again. But where you guys are right now, what does the season of life you're in right now look like?
Wow. It's they're
Figuring that out still?
yeah. It's always
Changing?
yeah, everything is always changing. But you said something a few seconds ago that you don't have a negative outlook on the future.
Yeah.
And that's really important, right? We're not everything's not fixed.
Right.
We're still got some situations. One of, I think I could say this, if not, you guys can edit it out, but, one of our daughters is coming home the 30th of this very month. And, so she's been gone a year. And, when she gets home, it'll be right at a year. And, we're excited about her coming home, but her, if you, let me say it like this, if you want a podcast, interview Courtney.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah. We've
Okay.
been able to witness this journey.
Now
Yeah.
there's
Her
a
journey's
life.
amazing.
There's a
Yeah.
life that has taken some turns, and
she's only what? Is she 30 yet?
33.
33.
She's
okay.
33 years old. She has 4 children. She's been gone a year because of drug addiction, and
her
lost her
husband.
husband a year ago to
Yeah.
a fentanyl overdose. And but if you were to talk to her on the phone today, she's been gone to Mercy Multiplied in California, Northern California, and what an amazing place. So she's coming home. She's doing great. She looks great. She sounds great. the other day, and I understand the question you asked me, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the other day, she was trying to call, and nobody was answering. And she's got an iPad, so she just decides to hit record. And she sings a song. We never, my wife sings.
Yeah.
We never knew Courtney could sing.
Never heard her carry a tune. Nothing.
And when we're done recording here, I'll play it for you.
Okay.
It was unbelievable.
Oh,
you know how
man.
picky Landy is about music, right?
Yeah,
He listens to it and goes, "Wow, we got to cut some songs."
That's something.
I mean, so my point is, everything. Go back to your question. Everything's not perfect right now, right? We're navigating different things, and day to day, there's you got days that are everything's great news, and you got other days that it's not so great news. But I have. Let me say it like this: I have no complaints, man.
Yeah.
I have no complaints.
I
woke up this morning.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm breathing, and I'm next to my wife. We have a great home. We have fantastic kids. Even sometimes they're knuckleheads.
Yeah. And
grandkids, 10 strong. Love them. Love every one of them to pieces.
And they're all perfect. Obviously,
Well,
the grandkids.
yeah. If you can have, my wife always say, if you can have grandkids first.
Yeah. You'd never have kids, right?
Yeah. So listen, man. Everything's not perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But everything's great.
Yeah.
Everything's not perfect, but it's great.
I think one thing that keeps us, one little statement that keeps me on task, is I look at things as this is a season in my life and not a sentence. So I don't look that this is the way it's going to be. Some people who don't have that identity in Christ, knowing that it's a season that we're in this season where we're helping navigate kids, help navigate the grandkids, which has been a good solid 3 years.
Yeah.
Before then, it was off and on, but it's been solid 3. We've had, 5 grandkids live here on a permanent basis, send them to 3 different schools. It's been crazy. When we feel like I'm in my 60s, I should be able to retire, right? And just go hang out with the girls. No, I'm at the bus stop, but I have to look at it. It's a season. Then I'm going to get past it.
Yeah.
So I think, people have to find out what season you're in.
Yeah.
And know that this is, even my children, I tell them, look, you're going to get past this. Let's get past this. The Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go when they get old. I pray, Lord, let it happen in my lifetime.
In your lifetime. You want to be able to witness that.
See it. I want to see
some
it.
fruit from
Well,
those.
I want to see it when they get old.
When they get old.
When they get old, what's it say about you?
I got to see it. I want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to see him living for the Lord. I want to see him flourishing and doing the right things,
Yeah. Well, you guys are an inspiration to a lot of people, including my own family and me. And I think, and this sounds cliche, and if you spend any time around me, I hate charismatic catchphrases and cliches that you can just print on a T-shirt or a cap or something.
Right.
But I really do believe that the season that we're entering into now, we're gonna receive a lot of clarity. A lot of understanding of why certain processes were the way they were. And I believe we're going to be able to experience a lot of fruit from what we've seen and been a part of. And I think that what we're going to see from this point on is going to leave us with the expression that I believe it was Mary that said, "This is indeed the Lord's doing, and it's marvelous in our sight." And I think we're going to see that. And I'm looking forward just to continuing on. I'm glad y'all live here. Even when we moved away for a little bit, y'all were still here.
Right.
Yeah.
We just waited for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I love you guys, and I'm
thank
we
you for
love you as
having
well.
us. We had
I'm
a good
thankful
time.
to hear your story. But we got to do one thing before we leave. You guys don't know what these questions are. All that was preface till we get to this. These are just simply a few questions to give a little bit. Now, Steve's a businessman. Now, see, we didn't even get into the part where we talk about, I've never known a man that simultaneously was operating more businesses at one time than this guy right here. And you get around him and you talk, and he's still chill. He's enjoying. He's keeping things together. I don't know that I've ever seen him have a meltdown on any level.
I haven't either.
Terri hasn't either. You still waiting on that one?
Well, listen, let's not plan it.
It ain't. Let's not plan. No,
Yeah.
let's not speak
Let's
that
go
into the
speak that.
airwaves,
Yeah,
right?
it sounds like
There's
you're
enough stuff going
Sounds
on
like
the
you're
airwaves.
cooking up something on the stove over there or something.
Boiling it up in the boiler, baby.
Here we go.
But we just want to dig a little bit into the psyche of Steve and Terri today. And I'm just going to ask you about 5 questions.
Uh-oh.
And they're just simple questions,
right.
pretty much.
I know you, though.
The simple's always complicated on other
But
levels.
But realizing we didn't just meet.
No, exactly.
So I
So y'all can both answer it, or you can answer it for each other, or just whatever. But
can I just say ditto?
yes, you can do that if you don't, because you're at a loss for words a lot. I realize that. Yeah. So you're in Nashville, but country or rock and roll?
Country.
I'm a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll.
Okay, that's a safe answer. All right, beach or the mountains?
Oh,
Beach.
easy beach.
Beach.
Really?
Yeah. Listen, I grew up in Chicago.
I grew up in South Dakota.
So therefore, no
Therefore.
beach, no beach. Now you want
Yeah,
beach?
it's cold. I grew up in the cold.
But you got Lake Michigan, though, man,
It's
right?
cold.
Yeah, I got cold Lake Michigan.
Cold Lake Michigan, yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, so when you think of a vacation, you don't think of Colorado? I said, that doesn't even enter my
No,
mind.
man. You get snow. You were raised with snow.
Yeah, the snow and vacation are
Yeah.
that doesn't go hand in hand.
And you are a Bears fan. I mean, you are a devoted, hapless Bears fan.
Yeah, I know.
But you
I
had
am.
you
It's
did
in-
have 1985.
Listen, it's in my blood.
Yeah.
You can't change it. Roll Tide though.
But
so.
you're there. You go. Now I heard. I'll amen that. Who's the better cook out of the two of you?
That's
Me.
simple.
He don't cook. He don't even know where the pans are.
He doesn't really. He does. That's
You
no
want to
idea.
hide something from him? Put it in the oven.
He knows where Uber Eats is on the speed dial,
Yeah.
right? Is that what it
He
is?
don't even do that.
You don't do that.
No, I can honestly tell you, I cook once a year.
Yeah.
That's
Once
a
year,
turkey.
and that's the turkey at Thanksgiving.
So you're the turkey king. Okay.
I don't know
you can do
about
that.
the king, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
make
he does
the
a good deep fried turkey.
I make the turkey, and then I retire for 364 days.
There you go.
And then
You know where your lane is when you hit it, and then you're out. Yeah, I get that. That's
people
a lot
ask
of
me, they
wisdom.
say, "Well,
there,
don't
Steve.
you have don't you want to get like a nice grill and go outside and
Why?
grill and all that?" And I'm like, "No."
But
That
Terry's
is-
got some Louisiana anointing
My
in
wife's
her
a good
too
cook.
from knowing how to cook, right?
Yeah, she's a really good cook, but everything she makes, I just threw this together.
Yeah, always. The best cooks always say that.
Oh, I just do
they
this
never want to let you know really what the method behind their madness. So, all right. Now, in your relationship, we know who expressed themselves first, but who said "I love you" first?
I don't know for a fact, but I would have to say me.
Probably.
I don't know for a fact, but I would absolutely unequivocally have to say.
Yeah, I'm
Probably.
gonna.
Said you love. Okay.
I'm gonna guess me.
Do you remember what your reaction would have been on his first time he told you that? Did it scare you?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay. So Steve is the romantic. All right. Who snores the loudest?
That's easy.
Well, I'm older. I guess it goes with age.
Does it go with age?
Do I really snore?
No,
Maybe I do.
if she's got like a bad cold or something, she might
Yeah.
snore. But in general, she doesn't
We
really
don't
snore.
We
Right.
don't snore.
But I'm sure it's the most sexy snore you've ever heard, right?
I get closer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, she doesn't really snore. And I don't think I do. She never complains if I do.
No,
and
he doesn't snore.
He doesn't
So-
snore. You're totally at peace. I do remember
I
you
don't
telling
sleep.
me one time.
I don't sleep enough to snore.
You sleep in intervals, I
do.
think you
I'm
told
up
me
about
before.
4 or 5 times a night.
I am too, but for different reasons
And
than you.
but I don't have a problem going back to sleep. But I
Yeah.
just wake up a lot. I'll get up, walk around the house, and
Okay.
check the doors again or whatever, make sure everybody's
Just in
good
case,
or
yeah.
whatever. Then go
See,
back.
the father comes out in the
protector.
protector, man.
Go
yeah.
back to sleep.
I get
again.
that. I do that
And
as
so,
well, man.
And it's not I wake up because of a fear or anything like.
No,
It's not
yeah.
I heard anything. Although
Right.
I'm an incredibly light sleeper. I don't snoring. Nah, just.
What's one piece of advice you would give married? This is not even on. We're going off script here. We're going off road.
Yeah, you said 5 questions.
Yeah, I know this is 6, but Alabama. So this is number 6. What one piece of advice would you give to people who are looking to build a successful marriage? What would it be?
I don't know, but you got a fly flying around your head, and I'm sure it's
Around my head?
I'm sure it's going to be great for video.
Yeah, I know it is.
Anyways,
I
Right
would,
here.
I would
what was
say,
the question? I'm sorry, I can only see the
I
fly.
know- I know what it
I can
is.
only see the
Got you.
fly.
I know what it is. What I would say is that you have to operate as one. And
operate
whatever
as
he
one.
says is what it is. Or we need to discuss this first. I think parents don't need to argue in front of their kids, and we've never done that.
Yeah, that's good.
We've always stepped aside and something we need to talk about. I think you've got to have a united front.
There's a difference between an argument and a discussion, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Hey, we need to discuss something is not an argument, right?
Right.
Because like you said, we had a handful of arguments, where those didn't happen in front of the kids either, but I'm just saying there's a difference in the two.
You just need I think you got to show united front.
A united
front. Pit each other,
Yeah.
What Dad, Mom said, I think you got to be together.
Yeah.
I think that's.
I think
especially
Ben's
for
is
the
having an issue over there on the side.
How's that for video?
That's good.
Ben.
Thank you guys so much for being willing to subject yourself to being behind the mics and all. And
I wasn't going to cry today. I said, I am
I
not
knew
going
you
to cry.
would, Terri. I knew that's-
Here I had to cry a little bit.
yeah, but
Not much,
that's
though.
awesome.
I'm
No.
actually surprised because...
Well, I
there's
could have
times-
dug a little deeper, but I thought, no, let's not do that. I don't want her makeup to run that bad. Probably she'll be fussing about it. But
Yeah.
thank you guys so much.
Oh,
And
thanks for
it goes
having
without
us.
saying, but I love y'all.
We
Yeah,
love
My
you.
family
too.
loves you.
And we love
And
them.
I'm looking forward to just getting started into this next season. Whatever it's going to look
yeah.
like, it's going to be a lot of fun. And so
Yeah, it is.
I want you guys to join us next time on the My Identity Podcast. Be sure and tell all your friends to tune in. Subscribe to everything you see that says My Identity. Subscribe. You'll be glad you did. Take care. We'll see you next week on the podcast. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the My Identity Podcast. We're excited that you tuned in and you made an investment of your time into this podcast. It means a lot to us here. I want to encourage you to stop by every week, because we've got new episodes baking in the My Identity kitchen, and they're going to inspire, they're going to encourage you, they're going to give you something to make it through your week. So I want to invite you to click the little subscribe button here on YouTube, and not only on YouTube, but you can also subscribe on whatever podcasting platform you get your podcasts on. You can follow, like, and listen every week. As each new episode comes down the pipe, you're going to love it. And we are honored that you spend the time here with us on the My Identity Podcast. We'll see you soon.